This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, December 16th, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call. Please respond if you're here. Tom?
Here.
Patrick?
Here.
Leslie? Here. Catherine?
Here.
Crystal? Oh, excuse. Marie? Here. Louise? Here. Deborah? Here. And Kathy is here. All right, so we do have a quorum. Let's take a look at the minutes. If they were sent out early a couple of times, so if you have any comments or additions or deletions to the November minutes? Not hearing anything?
Oh, abstain, obviously.
Okay, we'll take a vote for the minutes then.
Motion approved.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Marie, second. Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention? Okay. Right, we'll move to the director's report. Cindy?
Okay.
Thanks for all the information you sent us too.
Okay, let me just share my screen. And have to refresh myself, sorry, on how to. Okay, Patrick, can you see the website?
I can, yep.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So we said we would start with the state report. Okay. Every year, as I mentioned, the Council on Aging's do a state report to the Office of AGE, Aging and Independence, something like that, instead of Elder Affairs. Okay. So I thought what I would do is I would go through the report with you to explain how our software, the report and reality intersect. And what I put up there was annotations and extra information so you can fully understand what we're doing, because unfortunately the system we use doesn't capture a lot of the work that we do. So I'll explain as I go along. So first we're going to look at I wonder if I can get rid of that picture. Push Patrick out of the way. Sorry, Patrick. So this is, whoops, it's hard to go between the screen and okay. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. And can I get rid of those pages? I don't know. So what we're looking at here is just from the top, the most broad categories of what we do without looking at all that work the front desk does with the anonymous calls, guests that come to things because they're not counted in the same way, and some of the marketing work that we do. So this doesn't represent everything that we do, but because it looks weird, I thought I would explain. So outreach and advocacy isn't just the services the outreach worker provides. It's anything that the state tries to count that is us reaching out to people to help them, or is us reaching out to new people who haven't been to the senior center yet, as opposed to a referral, which means we're connecting them with resources that either we offer or we don't offer. So just think outreach is sort of a different concept than referral. So under outreach, these smaller numbers it's just like how we happen to categorize things. This year, we are transitioning to calling things different names. So that's why when you see outreach is the bigger number, that's all your shine counseling and connecting people with food and all kinds of work that we do just happened to be in a big broad category. And next year it will be more specific. So, anybody who really wants to see what that's like, I can explain it, but so
I'm sort of curious.
So let me just go through, because we got a lot to get through in very little time. Save your questions, please, and I will address them either next time, or I can address you individually, or just even put out additional information, but definitely save your questions because there's too much to get through. So when you look at this, this is like one-to-one counseling, but it's also some events are in there, and we'll go through the detail in a minute. Professional services, what that means is when we bring people into the senior center, AARP, tax prep, if we were bringing an attorney or a financial professional in to do one-to-one counseling, that's what professional services is, okay? Where you see legal assistance, that's probably when the nonprofit bar association group came in to do a presentation, but we'll look at the details. Support services is where we put Easthampton's computer classes. We used to put the medical equipment loans in there, but remember we stopped doing that in early July, so there's only a couple loans in there. Any food, grocery shopping, all kinds of stuff. Groups like Kathy Carey's vision, supportive group around vision, and so on. And home repair, we're not home repairing, but what's in there is smoke alarms by the fire department, bringing sand to older adults. The state just wants to call it things, and I have a whole book. I have a book that guides me on what to put where. Wellness is really mostly going to be the meals that we do from Highland Valley, exercising, and then any kind of presentations that get done, and then the foot care, where you see health screening, a lot of that is foot care. Community, it doesn't make sense to anybody except the state. Everything we do is as a community center, but we had to divide up the classes, the trips, the activities, the presentations that we do into cultural, into lifelong learning, and into recreation socialization. And in recreation socialization, really it makes no sense, would be like when UMass came and did the needs assessment forums, that goes in there. So it's like a whole mix of stuff.
Where would Robbins Community Center?
Can you hold your questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Just help me remember.
So that's a separate organization. So we'll get to the detail. And then they want to know who we serve under 60. We can't always tell them because sometimes those people are guests or they're anonymous. So when you see a small number like that, that just means that we happen to know, the age of somebody. They were under 60. They were probably a caregiver that went along with somebody to the medical appointment. So I want to go to the detail. So under the detail, and it's almost worse to look at it this way unless you know what you're looking at. So like you look under case management advocacy and you would think, oh, that's where all of Ashley's appointments are going to be. No, that's just where what fell under there was like a talk. So, and then you look down, health benefits counseling shine is going to also include, in this case, this is going to not be one-to-one counseling, not going to be all the one-to-one counseling. So you just kind of have to go through, take it with a grain of salt. If you don't see something in one place and you're like, where are the hundreds of other appointments they did one-to-one? It's in another section. And then I have broken it out into more detail in a different way that I'll show you in a minute. When you see duplicated and unduplicated, you can't add these numbers up to see how many people did the Council on Aging serve when you're looking at this. It's how many people did the actual event serve. So AARP Social Security 101, Understanding Benefits, well, the number's the same. It was a talk, 13 people came, so it's duplicated and unduplicated. But if you're looking at appointments, obviously, if you had 77 appointments, it just so happened there were 58 people because some people came more than once, okay? So that's all that means. When you get down here to, okay, let's just see here. So the tax assistance, there you can see that AARP tax prep that we do. There were over 300 appointments last year. And then when you get down here to support services, what you see is those are the support groups that we're doing right now under group support. The Alzheimer's Association Support Group had just started. That represents one meeting. So it'll be different next year. Whoops, stop that. Okay. Under transportation, what we know about transportation, we already discussed in the last, at least one or two meetings, so I won't go into that. And then here you can see our health education talks, the clinics that we do, the public health nurse. There's been no public health nurse for months and months and months after the nurse retired. So the city of Easthampton has a contract that does not include them coming over to do talks with the Northampton folks. Here's all our exercise stuff. You can see that's one of the bigger numbers, all those exercise classes. Where it says trip at the bottom of all those exercise classes, those are those nature wanders we do. Those are the active hikes we do. Here's the meal. It's just broken into two there because we called it something different for half the year, but it's the same meal. That's why, again, here you can't go by unduplicated. You can't say that. Well, actually, they did say it's 45 people. That sounds about right for the year. We won't go through all of this, but these are all our classes that are not exercise and the games and fun things people do together. And let me just scooch down. And sometimes here, the visiting numbers are way up. If you look at the bottom of the page there, that's way, way up, is that people are coming in to do the puzzle, hang out, have coffee, whereas during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, nobody came in and sat down. They just came to do their thing and scooted. I would just put out there that number would be a lot bigger if we had a cafe and a nice new center. The musical performances, we count those as cultural. Trips, so they're recreation and socialization trips. So the day trips we do, some of them are cultural, some of them are lifelong learning, some of them are purely recreational. Those are split up into the different categories. People served under 60, very few people are served under 60. This doesn't represent them all, but there you go. Okay, but so more meaningful is when instead of spitting it out as the state report, is when I go in and manually extract the statistics for a particular thing. So if I go look at our outreach workers' work, this is a little hard to follow because we had to rename things mid-year. So some of them are repetitive, like there's probably 4 categories of SNAP. It's all cleaned up for next year. So you can see these are the different things that we offer when I am counseling people, when Ashley is counseling people, when we're doing meals intakes or terminations. And I started putting senior tax work off in. For example, that's a lot of work that I do. Or counseling and placing volunteers. This is all work the state wants us to report on that we hadn't been. You can see the huge amount of shine work there. So when you look at it this way, it's more clear what we're doing here. 250 people had 448 health insurance appointments last year. And there's the totals. Primarily, this is one person. We had a volunteer doing some fuel assistance help. So that is outreach. What time are we at? Let's see.
You have about 2 more minutes.
Okay. But I want to make sure I save time for the celebrations part. So I'll get to that in a minute. So another thing that doesn't get represented in the state report unless I manually submit it, which trust me, I do. And I've talked to the software to people about how can we represent this. So the only logs, when you're looking at a report and you see logs, the only logs that are counted are the ones that we attach to a phone number. But that's not what the people are doing all day at the front desk. They're just like, okay, I had this call was for transportation. This Marie knows. This call was for this. Leslie knows. So you can see and that they don't write down every single one. These are the ones that, I've convinced them to plug in there. So there's almost 3,700 anonymous stopping by, calling, or emailing to get the services that they need. And then lastly, I'll just show you Okay, demographics. The state wants us to collect race and ethnicity, and I'll show you how far we've gotten since they announced that. If you look at that unknown 1349. So we have a lot of work to do, and it's optional. So that's not done. So that's just to guide you when you're looking at the state report. And I don't know if you remember this, but last year what I did was I looked at all of the years that I had data for, and I made a chart. Then it was for the city budget, so it went from March to March of each year, and it showed what was our trajectory before, during, and after the pandemic in terms of what we are delivering to people and how much people are using it. And it really showed that we were like here before the pandemic, and then, with a few things like delivering medications and COVID test kits or something, we did a lot of that, or wellness calls, but otherwise we were way down. And then we've just skyrocketed way past where we ever were because we've been offering so much more, and we have more staff and we have more money. So looking at the numbers for this year, I haven't put them into that yet. I will redo that so we have a simple chart that we can show people, especially the finance committee during the budget time, or just put at the front desk and in the newsletter. But instead of doing March to March, I'm gonna do it fiscal year by fiscal year. So you have a quick talking point to show what we're up to. So again, thank you for holding your questions. We can come back to this next time. You can send me your questions and we can talk about them more later because we have a lot to get through today. I just last part of my report is I want to call your attention to a new program that we're doing that in the January newsletter is not very explanatory. We tried to make it self-explanatory. What it is called celebrations. So at most senior centers, you have a birthday celebration every month because you have lunch and, or you're doing holidays or whatever. We don't have a natural way to do that. So what we decided to do is every month on the first Tuesday of the month, and it'll be after that new congregate meal I told you about where we're serving the Highland Valley food. We're going to have cake, we're going to have refreshments, and the goal of it is you come in with something. It's your birthday, it's your wedding anniversary, it's your memory of your mother's death. It's that your friend has a birthday and you can't be with her and you want to have a piece of cake in her honor. You just come in, you put your name on a name tag, you write down like birthday, anniversary of mom's death, or whatever you want to write down on your name tag. And you have cake, you have food, you have a place to chat, and it's going to stimulate chat between people. What are you celebrating today? What are you remembering today? Without being sort of like a ticky-tacky, here's another big Y cake and it's everybody's birthday. Because that would be fine if we were having a big meal and we had a special lunch, or if it was Hanukkah time and we were going to do latkes for lunch that day, the way Ludlow just did, and everybody felt like, oh, I'm going to check out latkes, So that's our answer to an inclusive way to do celebrations for now. So if you want to come and check it out, it'll be starting the first Tuesday in January, and Ian McLaren, our activities coordinator, is going to be overseeing that. So that is the end of my report. For now.
Thank you. All right, old business,
She has
the
another
building,
question.
oh, yes.
So the first Tuesday of every month?
First Tuesday of every month sorry, let me get the time. After the congregate meal. Sounds like it's going to be, I have to look it up. I think it's either 12:45, 12:30. It might be 1 o'clock. It's somewhere in there. It's in the newsletter, which will be out on the 22nd of December. Okay.
The
So,
old business, the building project update. Says committee members, so.
So we met on November 24th, I believe. And basically we discussed, shared opinions about potential sites for a new senior center, based on a report prepared by the city planner who was unable to be there. So basically just shared our opinions and are deferring any decisions or recommendations or anything else until the city planner can join us. And we have more information about some of the sites, which may have stipulations attached to them. Did I miss anything?
I would just add that, and Patrick, I can see your face now, so I would just add that none of them are perfect. None of the sites are perfect. So at the end of the day, the committee has to try to find the cleanest dirty towel in the hamper and which site has the least amount of issues that can be overcome. Because there's some sites where the issues can't be overcome. Some could be overcome with a lot of work, and some can be overcome with a little bit less work. But none of them are perfect, but we'll see what rises to the top after our next meeting. Because the city planner will be at our next meeting, which is next Monday.
The question, is it still 4 or 5 sites under consideration?
Yes, all the sites are on the table, but in the back of our minds, Marie, we know certain ones are sort of off the table just because, but right now they all survive on the list. And the mayor is actually, at our last meeting, added another possibility that we have to discuss. But all the original sites that were put forward by the ad hoc committee are still there.
Cindy.
I can add that if anybody wants to come to the next meeting, there's 2 new things that are being discussed. One is the possibility of leasing space and rehabbing it. And where is that? And, you know, what do people think of it? And because this board voted a certain way about sites and had strong opinions about sites, although there's some people who are now on the board who weren't part of that vote. If you want to come and directly hear about that, you can come remotely, you can come in person, and you can come to public speak, which I think is at the end of the agenda.
I think the new agenda, it's at the beginning.
It's at the beginning of the agenda. So if you have anything to say about where you think it should be, what kind of accessibility there should be, parking, you know, or anything that you want to contribute, even though it's on the agenda, on that committee, you're allowed to bring up something that is on the agenda. You just won't get a response during public speak. So feel free to come.
When is this?
That is Monday from 5 to 6:15. And then secondly, the other new piece that's on the agenda you might be interested in is the procurement officer, Michael Owens, is coming. He'll be there remotely to talk about what would go into an RFP, a request for proposal, and the process around that to hire the architect that would do an initial design and feasibility of the site. And that should be really interesting because there's, you know, a whole huge book from the Office of the Inspector General about how you go about that.
So we're talking about Monday, 5 to 6:15, which Monday?
Monday the 22nd. It's always the last Monday of the month except for this month because of the holiday.
And
So this one's will be
location?
22nd December.
The location?
And it's in this room and online. And if you go, if you just pop Senior Center Building Committee into the city website, you should come up with the agenda pretty quickly.
Thank you.
Just one point that I want to sort of try to clarify with our board. From time to time, opportunities for reuse of existing buildings come up. You probably all heard, gee, we have empty schools. Why don't we look at one of those? Walgreens location is empty. Why don't we look at that? And there's a couple of others that have bubbled to the surface, if you will. I don't know if I could find an official vote of this board from the beginning, but I believe our position always was, we supported a new senior center, new construction, not going into an old something, but a new senior center for the first time. And my comments, because some of that's going to come up on Monday, I've been on this board since about 1986. I was brought on as a representative of the younger generation. I outgrew that. In that period of time, we've been in 5 different locations that have been something before. I believe we have a very strong opinion that this is it. It's time for the city to step up and provide a state-of-the-art new senior center, not a rehab, not a rebuild, not an old building. And at the end of the day, this board or the building committee don't actually have to make the decision. It'll be up to the voters. So let's let the voters decide. And if the voters say no, then we go to Plan B. And we don't know what Plan B is yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Tom, you're still on board now for the new business bylaws review.
So I think all we have, there was one step, if you recall a while back, we wanted to clean up this Division 3 of the city's Counts on Aging bylaws. The first thing we wanted to do was, most important probably, was clarify who could be a member. The original bylaws dated from the 50s said that you had to be a resident of Easthampton. And that excluded some potentially great members who didn't live in Easthampton, but spent their entire work week here and were very involved and very knowledgeable about the community as a whole. And in fact, we had an occasion where once that was discovered, if you will, we had a board member that needed to resign because they moved out of Easthampton. So this board approved changes to the ordinance that was submitted to the ordinance subcommittee of the city council. There were a couple of other tweaks about how the director hired people, how we chose a chair of this board. For example, it said at the time, the chair of this board will be chosen by the mayor. Well, that's never happened. It's always been chosen by the board. So we tweaked all those changes. We put it forward to the ordinance subcommittee. After some wordsmithing and changing things around a little bit, the ordinance subcommittee approved it unanimously. It ultimately went to the city council and they approved it unanimously. The one step that I or we never circled back is taking those changes and then transferring them or incorporating them into the Counts on Aging bylaws. So I think, Cindy, if I'm not mistaken, we just need a vote to say, take the changes that were approved by the city in January of 2025 and incorporate them into the bylaws of the Counts on Aging. So I would, oh no, you got to call for the motion.
Good, yeah. So
Just to
we
incorporate it.
request a motion to approve that we put these into the bylaws.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Patrick makes a motion. Are you second?
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'm curious. Can you give us more of a, what are the changes that we're approving?
Sure. So again, before, the original bylaws said that in order to be a board member, you needed to live in the city of Easthampton.
Yeah.
What changed was it said members can be appointed by the mayor from the residents of Easthampton or persons working in the city. That was change number one, or persons working
That
in the
makes
city.
sense.
The chairperson of the council will be appointed by the board. Used to say the mayor, that says the board. And then the tweak that got added by the subcommittee of the council, because their concern was someday you could potentially end up with a majority of board members who didn't live in Easthampton. They limited that number to be 1/3 of the board. Originally, they were going to assign a number and we convinced them to make it a percentage. So 1/3 of the board, 3 members, can be non-residents of Easthampton. Hiring employees used to be at the direction of the mayor. That changed to the director with approval from the human resources director.
Correction.
Yes,
It used to be the Council on Aging, not the mayor.
Council on Aging would hire people.
Right.
Obviously, we don't do the hiring as the board. So that was changed to be the director with human resources input. The next one was just some wordsmithing. And all of it, the rest of it was just wordsmithing on the programs we provide and the duty of this one might be important to just read. The duty of the Board of the Council on Aging is to advise the director and the Council on Aging on implementing the mission and services of the Council on Aging. Language that this board had wordsmith to have that as part of the bylaws. Those were the changes.
Right, and
Yes.
And that was because the old wording was not aimed at older, to describe older adults. It was saying elderly, or it was saying senior, and we felt it was more inclusive to go to older adults.
And I think this language tied in with a mass organization or something you checked into.
And the last one is, I had a question there. Okay, so the meeting on Monday, the 22nd of December.
That has nothing to do with this. That's the building committee. This is an issue before this board to approve our bylaw changes
That would mean,
with this board.
okay, this is where I'm losing track, sorry. What would the bylaw change mean? What would we end up with?
All it means is that 1/3 of this board could be made up of people who do not live in Easthampton, but
But-
work in Easthampton.
Yeah, okay.
That's the gist of it.
And we're not, sorry. This change has already been made on the city level. It's optional whether our board even has bylaws. So the fact that we have bylaws that were last amended in 2019 means, though, that if we're going to continue to have bylaws, they need to be not contradicting the city ordinances.
Yeah.
The only other thing we didn't discuss in advance is, now that we have a mission and vision statement, should that be in here? Because this says Article 2 of our bylaws is purpose. And our mission and vision, new vision and mission, does not contradict this purpose. So I don't know if you want to put the mission and vision in the bylaws or just leave it the way it is, that it's like an accessory document, you know?
The only reason I might suggest putting them in is the bylaws from time to time are reviewed to make sure they're updated and all of that. If it's not part of it, though, the mission and vision statement might get looked at again 20 years from now. Because it gets put on a radiator and never looked at. If it's part of the bylaws, it will get looked at from time to time for refreshing if it needed.
So that would require a motion then. Let's stick with this first motion on approving what the city ordinance.
And it
Is
was
approved.
made and seconded already.
Yes, it was. So we'll call the question and we'll go ahead and call a vote. Essence of time. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Raise your hand, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Or abstentions? You know how you're voting there, Louise?
So I'm trying
We
to
have to
catch
move
up.
forward in these are, yeah, okay.
Appointees shall be appointed by the mayor.
So,
The mayor usually appoints.
I've got my doubts about that.
wait, I'm sorry, what was the question?
About the appointment, if the mayor actually appoints committee members or not.
Totally, I have doubts.
So we need to move forward. Do you have a vote on this? Yes, no, or abstain?
Okay.
We already voted.
No,
No? Okay. Okay, moving forward. Do we want to add another motion then regarding to add the mission and the values to the bylaws?
I'll make a motion to add the vision and mission statement to
Vision
the
and
bylaws.
mission, thank you. Second? Catherine seconds. Any discussion? quite some time ago. Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of adding the mission and vision to the bylaws, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So it's unanimous.
Take care of it.
That's
Take care of it.
raised hand anymore.
He said yes, verbally.
Okay.
Leslie, I'm sorry. Kathy.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
So Leslie, are you taking care of all of the edits?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's good clarification. All right, our next agenda item is regarding membership, absenteeism and status. In the bylaw, it's in there on Article 5. And I'll go ahead and read it to you. Regular attendance is expected of all members. The absence of any member for 3 consecutive meetings during any calendar year may cause the council to request resignation of that member. And exceptions may be made for reasons of health or other extenuating circumstances to be determined by the council and as duly reported to the chair or director in advance of the meeting. I'll explain the current situation, in my opinion, and then ask for a motion. And if there's a motion, I'll open it up for discussion before we vote. There have been concerns regarding about the effectiveness of board member Louise Jacob by not helping the committee make decisions by abstaining on almost all motions, including adjourning the meeting. Voting is a fundamental process in being a committee member. The meetings have been disrupted by repeatedly bringing personal issues to the board meetings. Consistent negativity has impacted on members of the board. She has repeatedly and openly spoken negatively about the senior center and its staff. Louise missed 3 consecutive meetings, September, October, and November, and according to the bylaws, Article 5, membership, the board has the authority to request resignation of the member. I will entertain a motion to request Louise resignation effective immediately.
Okay, I've got it.
If we have a motion.
I'll move the question.
Tom moves the question. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Catherine, second. Okay, we'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, I know that my absences in both September and October were because I thought I'd be able to attend, but it was so complicated and difficult, and I got so trying to get advice from Ashley, the outreach worker, that I was exhausted, and I think it slipped my mind by the end of the day, which kind of feeds into my hobby horse, I guess, that we need a lot of more Ashleys. We need more than one outreach worker. We need 3 or 4. And I feel that really strongly and could discuss anybody. I mean, I've got 2 candidates of knowing very few people in Easthampton. I know 2 people who should, 3 who should be clients. One tried and has given up. It's somebody who's got low vision. I don't know if she met, I think she met with you, Cindy. But anyway, I'm trying to, I feel we need a lot more outreach. We're missing too many people. Too many seniors. I mean, I've got a tenant right now I rent the upstairs portion of my house for half the going rate. It was my mitzvah, whatever. He's, and I know he hasn't he relies on the community center, Robbins Community Center for food. He has not been in contact with the senior center. My next door neighbor, Linda LaRouche, she met with Ashley. She got shine.
If I could interrupt, I'm
I
sorry.
just don't want to use personal names and confidential information
Right,
from
we
the
should,
senior
yeah,
center.
Oh,
we should
sorry.
keep that, right. And then also,
should-
just I understand your concerns with needing more Ashleys and so forth. Did you have any comments directly related to the motion
Okay,
that's on the table in terms of?
okay,
requesting your-
that's, I was trying to,
Okay, yeah,
for my own
give us a
memory,
little background, so.
but that's my main
Any other
concern.
comments or concerns?
No.
About the request? No. For the motion? Any other comments from any of the board members?
I'm just gonna, Louise, do you understand what we're asking? I'm just gonna put that out there. I want to make sure you understand what we're asking, this motion.
Go on.
Yeah, the motion is to request your resignation from the board.
Hmm.
For, some of the other comments that.
Okay, I'd oppose that for the simple reason that, basically, the reason I missed those 3 meetings demonstrates our need for more outreach workers. So it gets sort of circular.
Any other comments or questions or,
I'd call a question.
okay, we'll call the question and we'll take a vote. And the motion, do you have the motion there?
Do. So the motion which Tom made is that Louise resign,
Tom seconded.
Tom seconded, sorry.
Oh, no, I made the
No, you
motion.
made the motion. Kathy seconded.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Made the motion that Louise resign from the council immediately.
I suggest a roll call.
So I don't forget anyone.
We'll do a roll call vote. Tom,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Crystal's not here, Marie,
Aye.
Louise,
No.
Kathy, I, Deborah.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is approved. Let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 7-1, 7-1-0. Okay, so the board is asking for your resignation.
And I'm
Pardon me?
not giving it.
Yeah, my only suggestion is that that request be followed up in writing to Louise. Email would be fine, I would think.
Okay,
An email of the action the board took today.
will do. Makes sense. So I'll be sending an email to you regarding that. Okay, our next item on the agenda will be the advocacy COA. Cindy, you're back on.
Okay, and if I had my Marie, we appointed as our advocacy sort of worker. So, what I'm gonna do is explain to you what's happening with the state funding of councils on aging. And then outside the meeting, as we have in the past, after we appointed Marie, so I will write the COA director letters that we write to our legislators and the governor. And then Marie writes as an individual board member, in support of the board's perspective, her own perspective. If you want a letter on any advocacy matter to come from the board as a whole board, I think the best thing would be just the way we did with the mission and vision statement, to vote it and then appoint somebody to write it, and then Kathy signs it for the board. So it's a little bit different. So just to clarify, when Marie writes, she's writing as an individual who is a board member. So what is going on in the state and you can read about this. I think I put a link to it in the agenda. So there's the municipal economic issues that are coming to the fore, and the Massachusetts Municipal Association put out a report in October. But there's also the state economic situation. So the Massachusetts Councils on Aging, of which we are a paying dues member, they have a lobbyist, and that lobbyist and the director of Massachusetts Councils on Aging informed us that this year we're not asking for an increase per older adult 60 plus in Easthampton or anywhere else in the state. We're asking to stay at $16 an hour because we recognize the financial difficulties. It's a bad year to ask to go up again, and we did just go up. Since I've been here, I think we've gone from 12 to 16 or somewhere in there per older adult. And so our state formula based on that $16 per person is a big part of our funding. The second piece is that there are supplemental grants you can apply for called the Service Incentive Grant. Again, they're asking that the funding be put in but not increased in response to the economic situation. And then thirdly, the third item that we're advocating around is that forever and anon, I don't know if it's decades, but there has been legislation to try to recognize that every town has a different board. Some are COA advisory boards like ours, some are governance boards. Some towns are so small that the COAs are probably doing the hiring and so on. And so we need legislation that codifies what's going on in Massachusetts really and provides guidance to boards. And so I sent you a link to the most current bill, Senate 487 and House 4301. And so we are advocating simply that this is good legislation from the COA perspective, and would they pass this so we can move on? And I think if you read it, I think what it does is it makes sure that they're not, instead of saying one thing about all councils on aging, that's not true for some, it's more inclusive. So of which ones are advisory, which ones are governance, it changes the language from being ageist, like talking about the elderly, to talking about older adults. So those three things are what I am advocating for as a Mass Councils on Aging member. And then Marie can look at it and see what she thinks for herself. But I just wanted to I didn't want to assume that the board doesn't want to take a position on anything. You don't have to. You could take a position and write as the COA board. So that's the information. And lastly, what we are expecting is that as federal and state programs and funds are cut, that when people come to us who currently come, they're going to have additional problems. Their problems are going to be more complex, and that we may get new people. And so that would be the argument for not cutting. They could cut from the $16 down to $15. And we don't want to see that happen, because what we know is that in addition to one-to-one counseling, what we do a lot of is, we have educational talks, we have constituent hours to help people. And so, we need to maintain our hours as a senior center. We need to maintain our staff. We need to maintain our supplies. Like, there's a lot that we need to do to be a place where people can come to get more complex help, which we already saw with the Medicare open enrollment that just happened. It was so much more complex. Mass Health, we are a Mass Health certified application center, and it is so complex and difficult that, and we're really just embarking on that for all ages. So we don't want our funding to be reduced. And that is all I have to say about that.
Cindy, knowing that you are more intimately involved in where advocacy might make a difference than we might be, is it appropriate for when you are looking for that advocacy from the board, for you to bring it to us explain what it is you're looking for the board to advocate, and then the board takes a vote. And then whether Marie's writing it or whatever, we take a vote. And I've got to believe 10 out of 10 times, if you come forward and say, I'd like the board to advocate for this, I don't know why we would say no. But having it come down rather than try to having it come up, because we may not be intimately involved or be aware.
So,
I just wanted to add a little bit to that. When the advocacy issues come to our attention, Cindy usually receives them and forwards it to me. These letters are form letters to the representatives or senators.
Yeah.
And there's an additional section that myself as an individual can add my own piece. So I wanted to make a suggestion in terms of services and the number of people we're going to be serving as they increase. I wonder if certain advocacy requests can be put into a newsletter so that the older adults in Easthampton can also send those letters and just to broaden the output, so to speak.
But again, going back, if you're looking for it also to come from the board, hopefully there's not a timing issue where that advocacy is required to be in before the next board meeting. So
Isn't that why they invented emails?
I don't believe you can take a vote via email. You can't take a vote via email.
I mean, you could,
You could email and ask people to vote, people to advocate
yeah. exactly.
individually,
As
individually.
individuals.
But you can't do it as a board without a vote at the meeting. So there could be time when the advocacy is required so promptly that we don't have time before next meeting. But in the event that it does allow the time, Marie or Cindy could bring it to the board. So it's not just Marie and Tom sending it in, it's the
Yeah.
board of the Easthampton Council on
It's
Aging.
basic politics.
Yeah.
I mean,
and just one clarifying piece of information, so there is a joint committee of the Senate and the House on the state level of aging and independence. And our Senator, John Vilas, is the vice chair of that committee, does support the bill. It's called an act relative to councils on aging. So at least there's that. All you're doing is writing a letter to him, if you agree, saying, thank you for supporting this. And for Rep. Gomez, I don't know if this is one of his, but again, you can refer to H 4301 and he and his aide will know what you're talking about. So what I can do is I can just send you the write-up. I can send you the template without taking a vote. If you're so moved, you can send a letter. It's very easy, or make a call. And then the other part about the state budget, when it comes to state budget, you can write to your legislators and you can also write to the governor. Because I don't think the governor's budget is out yet. So, we want the governor to put the $16 in there. Okay. All
And
good.
you'll email us. All that.
It's on the agenda. There is the legislation is right on the agenda, but I will
Under the
email,
advocacy update.
but I'll email you the sample letter.
I mean, my background is journalism, marketing, communications. So, and I can't implement them much these days because I'm 75, but email works.
Okay, thanks for that advocacy. How about the formula grant and service incentive grant?
That was all part of that.
That's all part of that. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, that was the first part of it. Okay, public speak, I don't see or hear anyone online. Okay, so if I pass that, we'll move to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Patrick, second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, I think we're unanimous. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.